what the hell is this? Drop it! Alright, Jay Huger, look at this power panel. Anna Kasperi, Jay Choi joins us. Maythan Al-Hassan as well. Maythan, you guys know Jake, let's talk for a second. You're on ABC's comedy Single Parents.
Yes.
That's super cool that you're an actor and all that stuff, but I'm obsessed that you're a professional basketball player in South Korea, but you also played here. Where did you play here? In college?
Yeah, New York. Yeah,
New
played
York.
for Brooklyn College for a year, and then I failed off because I was a gym rat. And I went to South Korea, and I was like, let me try there. And yeah, I ended up playing university basketball there for the top university, basically, in Korea. And then yeah, I played semi-pro for a few years.
Well, that's pretty badass. What position?
I was a combo guard because I like to shoot.
I like to shoot too. There's going to be a lot of shooting on today's show. Okay. Also into boxing, yoga, which this is what I'm getting from your brother.
Okay. That's right. That's right.
Build the lies. You've never done yoga your whole life.
Well, no, I could do yoga.
I feel
Warrior
like
too.
if you're an actor, you have to at least say.
Yes.
Right?
Especially in
you
LA.
gotta fit in. Yeah, in LA.
That's part of the agency conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
somebody's going to pick you up.
Yeah, when you were moving from New York to LA,
It's how you
like
get
yoga.
initiated into LA gang culture.
Yeah. I can get Runyon Canyon and then yoga.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. All right, super last thing. When is Single Parents on ABC?
Wednesdays at 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central Time.
All right, excellent. Okay, fun power panels for you guys. This one coming up. Ida Rodriguez will join us, and Matt Walsh is going to join us from Veep. He's Mike McClintock from Veep, if you watch that. He's phenomenal, nominated for 2 Emmys. Okay, now, lots of fun and anger in today's show. The story, I mean, look, all the stories get me animated, but Trump's disastrous handling of the latest hurricane is literally a disaster. But the cheating that the Republicans are doing in Georgia is so brazen. It's unbelievable. So wait till you get a load of that story. All right. Anna, you want to take it away?
Yeah. Let's get the plastic
I got it.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I
Okay.
got your stomach.
So I see you, Jesus. Go straight to me as soon as I start pointing. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's start talking about some murdered journalists, unfortunately. We are still uncertain as to the whereabouts of a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, who was also a Saudi dissident who had self-exiled here to the United States out of an abundance of caution. He had been critical of the Saudi royals and was worried about his safety, which is why he came here to the United States. Now, he has gone missing after he went to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. He had went there to receive a document necessary to marry his Turkish fiancée, and he never came out of the building. Now, there is some indication that he was either abducted or, based on what the Turkish government is saying, killed by Saudi authorities who had arrived on chartered flights following his arrival to the consulate. Now, the Turkish investigators are saying that they have evidence that he was murdered. No one has seen that evidence yet. The Turkish investigators have been in contact with U.S. intelligence officials. It's unclear whether those intelligence officials have seen this evidence, but according to what we know so far, the recordings show that a Saudi security team detained Khashoggi in the consulate after he walked in October 2nd to obtain this official document before his upcoming wedding, then killed him and dismembered his body. The individual who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that the voice recording from inside the embassy lays out what happened to Jamal after he entered. You can hear his voice and the voices of men speaking Arabic. You can hear how he was interrogated, tortured, and then murdered. And the same individual also says that you can hear the Saudi officials beating him in the recording. Now, Turkish officials are also wary of releasing these recordings because they fear that it could divulge how the Turks spy on foreign entities in their country, Although I think it's pretty clear already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much confusion about that.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, okay, look, I get it that you guys see him on video going into the embassy, and you check the video in the back and the front, and you never see him coming out. I get that. How do you know they brought a bone saw? How do you know that they dismembered him? And so, of course, they don't want to say it in the beginning, but it's super obvious. And it's not just the Saudis, I imagine, and it's not just the Turks. My guess is most of the host countries tap most of the embassies that are in their respective countries. So be forewarned. Okay. And so the Turks apparently had a way of, they say not only audio but video recordings inside the consulate of Saudi Arabia. So they seem to have the goods.
Right. So this is all information that we shared with you in previous shows where we talked about this very story, but there are updates that I want to get into. So first off, what is the reaction from businesses and the media here in the United States? Well, for one, Trump has been very clear in stating that he will continue the sale of U.S. weapons to the Saudis, regardless of what happened to Khashoggi. We'll show you that video in just a second. But more importantly, we now have members of the media and other individuals who are boycotting certain events in Saudi Arabia. One of those events is the Future Investment Initiative, and it's supposed to take place in Riyadh. But there are a number of people who have now said, no, we're not going. We're not interested in that. Andrew Ross Sorkin, who is one of the anchors on CNBC, will not go. And also the editor-in-chief for The Economist is no longer going to go. But there is one person who's going to go, and that's Steve Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary here in the United States. I'm going to skip ahead and go to video 2. Let's hear what he has to say.
We are concerned about what is the status of Mr. Khashoggi. I am planning on going at this point. If more information comes out and changes, we could look at that, but I am planning on going.
So he's planning on going. We don't have enough information yet, so.
I don't know if people are going to think this is overly broad, but for a lot of the Gulf countries that are dictatorships, I've said for a long, long time, I think it's crazy to go, ever. And certainly for Saudi Arabia, they're a dictatorship, and they have absurd laws that they can and do enforce on you in weird ways from time to time. We've covered dozens of stories, people holding hands or kissing in public or appearing to be a same-sex couple, whatever. And you're like, okay, that's it, you're in prison for 13 years. What? No, you're crazy to go to those countries. I'm keeping it real. I'm not going. I've never gone. I'm not going to go until they get a government that represents their own people and that is a liberal democracy. And now, if you're a reporter, you ought to have your head examined going to Saudi Arabia. And look at what they just did to this columnist.
Right. Well, real quick, if you guys are worried that the U.S. is not going to take enough action, Trump did say something, and I want to make sure we're fair to him and we give him his exact quote. He says, quote, "We're looking at it very strongly."
Oh, well, I mean, that's...
And he said it's not a big deal. What did he say? He said we're not concerned. It was a double negative, which means there was no assertion. But I think there's so many things swirling. One is that, to your comment, unfortunately, there is a protected elite class of Americans who don't get to experience that kind of repression when they enter into the country. I mean, there's a ban on alcohol, and embassies carry alcohol in the country. So there are little things like that. But when you're talking about the symbolic consent to what the Saudi government is doing by showing up to actually a big deal meeting, this investment fund meeting has been designed because, guess what? The Saudi government is running out of money. They have really low oil projections to the point where they are going to start taxing their citizens. And this is a big deal because the Saudi state has radical unemployment, which a lot of people don't know about. So not everybody's rolling in wealth. And so they're looking for opportunities from the outside to get investment inside. And I mean, there's so much with this story that I want to talk about. One is that it's interesting that there is focus on Khashoggi, which I love. I love the fact that the West is putting pressure on our president, politicians are putting pressure on our system to withdraw from more arms deals that go into our disastrous war in Yemen, or Saudi's disastrous war in Yemen that we support through refueling and intelligence. And
so Jake and I spoke about that a little bit yesterday, and really all we could really do at that point was speculate as to why, because we've had a long history of bad behavior from the Saudis, and it seems as though no one's been willing to hold their feet to the fire until now. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is that the U.S. doesn't take kindly to repression of journalists. I mean, we have multiple movies that have just come out in the last couple of years about Nixon silencing and censoring the Post. We have the Spotlight story. So we have this, whether or not it's absolutely true, this notion of ourselves as protecting freedom of speech, right? So when we point to that, it means something. Khashoggi is a very interesting story, what his family, where he comes from and what his family represents in the global market. And maybe perhaps we can go into that at another point because it's a much longer story. But I think that also the murder of one person is something that is tangible to people. You know, Stalin said that killing one person is a tragedy, killing millions of people is a statistic. So that's how people can understand the story. They can't understand millions of people who are at jeopardy of a famine in Yemen. They can't understand the hundreds of thousands of people that are killed in Syria. It's too much to wrap your brain around and for you to extend a certain kind of empathy because you don't see it in your everyday life. So the killing of one person just hits home, and that sort of story is the story that spoke World War I. You know, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, and some historians speculated that that was the reason for the start of World War I.
Yeah, so look, whenever it's someone who's in the elite, it makes a much bigger difference. Let's keep it real. He was part of the Saudi elite, and in their mind betrayed them by actually being honest about them. And here he's a Washington Post columnist, so that counts 1,000 times more than a child in Yemen. It's horrible, but that's the way that it works. It shouldn't work that way, but if you're writing for the Washington Post, it's a lot more personal for you. That's partly why we're on that warpath.
And I'm just really curious how much he means if this is a terrible thing. We're going to look into it. I feel like oftentimes when he says that, it's very empty.
When Trump says that?
Yeah, when Trump says that.
Yeah, I can see why you think that. Right. I mean, and look, to provide evidence for why someone would be concerned about whether or not Trump really cares. I mean, when he was talking about this in front of the press just yesterday, he mentioned the citizenship status of this journalist, like basically trying to make a point about how this isn't like a U.S. citizen. He's not a U.S. citizen, right? Like he's a resident. I mean, he was first of all, you should know that before speaking to the press. You're the president of the United States. But more importantly, what does his citizenship status matter? I mean, he was here in the United States. He was working for the Washington Post, and he was targeted specifically because he's been critical to the Saudi royals, who Trump has been, very complimentary toward, and has, gone to great lengths to do, positive PR for. So, I don't know. I don't think that he really cares that much.
He also does have a long history with the Khashoggi family, so this is putting him in really sticky waters, but not that Trump is a loyal person. He's loyal to the point of his own personal interest being protected. And I'm just curious to really see how this pans out because it seems like a gross political miscalculation on the part of MBS. I don't understand why doing it in another country, a country that you're also in really dirty waters with. There's a huge proxy war going on, and if folks don't know, I'm sure we've talked about it on the show multiple times, but there is this Turkish-Qatari alliance that Saudi Arabia and Egypt and other Gulf countries are in opposition with, and sometimes it's kind of a Cold War, and sometimes things get flared and reflared, and for this to happen on Turkish soil, I don't know how this is not going to embroil into something massive.
Yeah, and look, that's because Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, is totally reckless. I mean, he kidnapped a foreign leader, the leader of Lebanon. That's insanity. When that guy, by the way, Mnuchin, I mean, we're the U.S. Unlikely that he's going to kidnap our Treasury Secretary. But it's not unprecedented. He's kidnap the leader of a country before. And the guy, look, we're his ally. So again, it's almost no chance of it. But you're playing with your life by in dealing with this guy at all. And it goes to another way of showing his recklessness, which is on the financial grounds. So they're in massive financial trouble. Part of the reason that he kidnapped and imprisoned the other Saudi royals on total BS charges of corruption. I mean, the charges might be real, but he's even more corrupt. Right? So it's disingenuous in that sense. In the middle of that, he bought a $500 million yacht for himself.
Sounds like a good investment.
Sounds like a Trump investment.
Yeah, if you're worried about, oh my God, the Saudi finances are in trouble, you don't buy a $500 million yacht. And the fact that the U.S. did so much propaganda on his behalf, including a lot of the mainstream press, now all of a sudden come to find out he kills members of the press, and they're not, oops, right? Well, you should have thought of that before you were doing all that positive press. I remember on this show we were saying, why is CBS, 60 Minutes, and all these other outlets, saying this guy's some sort of reformer? We already knew he kidnapped a foreign leader. We already knew he was trying to foment a civil war within the Palestinian territories and in Lebanon. We knew what an out-of-control, dictator he was before, but yet he was defeated. Why? Because if you pay enough money in Washington, you're going to get a lot of great propaganda no matter what you do, until you come for the guys who are giving you the propaganda.
Right, and just a quick note on that. I mean, the American press doesn't care about what Saudi Arabia wants to do to Palestinian territories.
Right.
We already know how the U.S. press covers what happens to Palestinians living in Palestinian territories.
Yeah, and I should note, I mentioned the Gulf countries. To be fair, just yesterday we covered the story of Israel imprisoning people who don't agree with Netanyahu, or have the wrong opinion on the BDS movement. So you want to boycott Israel, etc. And the woman, the 22-year-old from Florida, an American citizen, she doesn't even believe in that. She's going to study at Hebrew University. They're like, yeah, don't care. She's been in prison for over a week, being detained because she has the temerity to disagree with the right-wing government of Israel. So unfortunately, this authoritarian streak is growing worldwide, and it is deeply disturbing.
We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will give you an update on Hurricane Michael and also Trump's insane non-reaction to it. So come right back. We'll give you that for you.
Where were you the first time you heard TYT? Sounds like a bit like a tragedy, right? I remember where I was when I first heard TYT. All right, no, but we do want to know, because these are great stories and we appreciate it and we love sharing with everybody. So we want to hear from our members on why you joined, why it took you until now. That's an interesting question. What specifically about TYT made you interested? And be honest with us, and we'll share it all. Now, as you know, we're in week 6 of our membership drive, and we're hoping to get to 100,000 members so that this is a solid rock and you can never move the home of progressives. That's what we're trying to do here. And so some of our fans have told us why they decided to join, so we wanted to share it with you guys. So let's start with Kim. Kim told us, Anna, I love your passion. Jake and you are perfect together, and I'm so glad I found you in 2006. I left an abusive marriage, and you helped me become strong again. Thank you, TYT. Proud to be part of the 27,661. That's the number of members we had before the membership drive. Thank you for being with us for so long and for being strong. Now, TYT Rebel Warrior says, only a liar would not want an FBI investigation into their actions in the past, since lying to the FBI is a crime. Also proud to finally be an activist member. You guys keep everything 100 and have given me the best on both sides of the issues. And thank you for not only being a member, but being an activist. That makes a big difference. Lacey told us, I love you, TYT. Blown away at how raw, honest, and real you are. So proud to be a member and thankful for your sacrifice and voices. Thanks for trudging through on those hard news days and standing up for progressive values. I'm politically active for the first time in my life because I can understand issues as a result of the real reporting here and honesty. It's so refreshing. I've given more money to progressive candidates since I joined TYT than I have my whole life. Yay for a sane news outlet. And thank you, Lacey, for actually helping other progressives win. Makes a huge difference. Lastly, we heard from our friend Chris, who said, just signed up as a TYT member. I've been watching more and more TYT this year. I thought I was watching TYT live every day. Want to watch all the other shows and definitely want to see all the coverage on election night. Really enjoying it. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to all of you guys who wrote in. We really appreciate it. Come join us, become a member, be on the left side of history, and if you aren't yet, please come to tyt.com/join and make a difference. We get animated about this. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Senator Sanders, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question. How dare you? That's the problem. You're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Wait, look. It's the liberal people. No. These are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists. For us, this system isn't working. So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
So what's happening in the Democratic Party is what used to happen in the general election. We would have a person who represented workers and the people and the voters, and then the Republicans would represent business, corporations, and Wall Street. That's happening all inside the Democratic Party this time.
We're going to rock the boat. We're going to be counter-establishment. We're going to tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're going to keep it real with them.
Our system is inherently rigged against the will of the people.
They have 50% of the vote, and in a democracy, they should have 50% of the seats.
But if you live in an insanely gerrymandered district, your vote functionally doesn't matter.
We drew the map in a way that even though we get 50% of the vote, we're going to get 13 out of the 18 seats.
You don't actually have the ability to translate the will of the voters in your area into actual government policy.
They should not be allowed to gerrymander these districts. We should actually have a democracy. All right, back on the Turks. Let me read a couple of comments for you guys. I'm going to start with, we're going to go just members right now. Start with Cossack writing in. As a trained historian, I just want to say that TYT is certainly an objective news source despite their commentary. You can have a humanistic perspective and still be objective. Objective morality is a thing that exists despite what the Christian right says. Thank you. Appreciate it. And that is what we try very hard to do here. Give you the facts and then our commentary.
I just want to know, are you a real historian or are you like a Newt Gingrich type of historian?
No one saw the guy like that.
Kidding, I know I would never try to
Okay.
insult you. I just want to make a Newt Gingrich joke.
Are you also an amateur paleontologist? Okay. Steve Benke writes in, it really is amazing what the West allows Saudi Arabia to get away with without consequence. Makes a mockery of our government every time they bring up human rights concerns anywhere else in the world. Great point. 6,600 civilians have been killed in Yemen. And we let them get away with that. You know, you get somebody in the elite, then it's a different problem. And Trump is such a weird liar. He's like, yesterday we should have called him out on this. We have $110 billion of arms deals with Saudi Arabia. It turns out it's $4 billion. He just can't help himself. And by the way, it is definitely bipartisan. That we've been saying all along. The reality is Obama had $96 billion worth of arms deals with Saudi Arabia. So what we let the Saudis get away with under Democratic and Republican presidents is outrageous. And one last one, Diverdi writes in, it's a slippery slope to chastise Cruz's advisor Omri Sarin for defending war criminals. Okay, that's for yesterday's show. Jake, us lawyers understand the sacred right to have your day in court and to challenge the state's evidence to avoid any arbitrary prosecution. Now, that's true, but remember, Omri Sarin, who is one of the top national security advisors for Ted Cruz, is not a lawyer. He's a lobbyist. And he didn't have to represent them, and it's not a non-profit case. He's not court-appointed. He chose to represent a mass murderer for money. So, yeah, I get to criticize that. By the way, when you have these celebrity lawyers, and sometimes they're wonderful, like Johnny Cochran had a great career before OJ, but okay. But the very first time I was ever on television, I said the same thing then about him and Dershowitz. I was at a minimum right about Dershowitz. Okay, which is that nobody made you represent OJ. You weren't a court-appointed lawyer, and there was a lot of money and fame that came along with that. In Omri's case, has nothing to do with the law. He was a lobbyist who signed up to represent dictators. And Ted Cruz apparently thinks that that's a wonderful thing, because because he hired him, and God knows what he's going to advise him. So that was a great story by Ken Klippenstein, which you should check out on TYT Investigates. All right, what's next, Dan?
All right. Hurricane Michael has led to quite a bit of devastation in Florida's Panhandle and also in Virginia. In fact, we are now getting updated numbers in regards to the death toll, but I do want to warn you that the medical examiners in the area do expect the numbers to increase. So according to what we know as of now, Hurricane Michael's death toll has risen to 13. 13 people have died. There was this one particularly tragic story of a little girl who died after a portable carport slammed into her grandmother's house and hit her in the head. Both she and her grandmother died as a result. One of the medical examiners that the press spoke to said, "We are swamped. It's a disaster zone down here." He refused to give any updates regarding the death toll numbers, but again, as we know, the official count is 13 at the moment. Now, at least 1.5 million customers were without electricity in states stretching from Florida to Virginia. Much of the coast of the Florida Panhandle, including Mexico Beach and Panama City, was devastated. The area is dotted with small rural communities, some of them among the poorest in the state. Now, one of the things that I've been curious about is the response from the federal government. Now, as we know, the federal government was not very responsive when it came to Puerto Rico, but was pretty good when it came to responding to storm victims in Texas and in Florida, and this is last year. But it turns out that in the case of Hurricane Michael, people in the area who have been devastated by this have not been reached out to. No one has talked to them from FEMA. Here's one quote. Carl Jones, who's 43, said that he had seen no hint of government response as of Thursday night. In fact, he said, only thing is the police came and said, you've got to be inside at nightfall. But Trump's statements would have you believe that he's doing a lot. In fact, he was quoted as saying, we had it under great control because FEMA and everything else. We had White House. We had on the plane, on Air Force One. I was totally monitoring, so I went in and made the speech and everybody was happy. Okay, so he's been getting a lot of criticism because just a few hours after the storm hit land, he decided to rally in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so after the critics chimed in on this, Trump decided to share his views when he called into Fox and Friends. Here's what he had to say.
You know, you took some heat yesterday, Mr. President, for going ahead with your Pennsylvania rally last night.
Well, I think really when I explained it, there was no heat. I really had very little heat, other than the natural haters, of which there are obviously some. But, you know, we had thousands of people standing in line. It's a great thing that's happening. It's a great movement in our country. I go and make a speech in a 12,000-seat auditorium, and people start lining up 2 days early. I mean, literally, they bring tents, and, you know, we had thousands of people lined up by the time I had to make a decision. So my decision was, do I want to tell people that were waiting 10 and 12 hours already that I'm not coming? And I just thought it would be, and we're talking about thousands of people. And you saw that last night when the auditorium, which held about 12,000 people, it was full, and we had 20 or 25,000 people outside watching screens. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of people.
Okay, please stop talking. At least that was the sense I got. By the way, look, his decision to rally as people were being devastated by this storm is one thing, but here's your opportunity to speak out and say something, at least try to comfort the people who are dealing with this right now, but instead he used it as an opportunity to continue talking about his popularity and also lie about the numbers. Look, it doesn't even matter. He said there was 12,000 people there. That arena only holds 9,000 people. And then he says that people were lined up for 2 days straight. That's not true. People started lining up Wednesday morning, 12 hours before the event. But nonetheless, he had been very, very critical of Obama because Obama participated in a concert back in 2012 with Bruce Springsteen and Jay-Z. And so Trump was arguing, Hurricane Sandy just happened. Can you believe what Obama's doing? He's out there campaigning right now. He shouldn't be doing it. Here's what his tweet said. This is on November 6, 2012. Yesterday, Obama campaigned with Jay-Z and Springsteen, while Hurricane Sandy victims across New York and New Jersey are still decimated by Sandy. Wrong. Well, you made a decision to continue on with this rally just a few hours after Hurricane Michael hit, and Hurricane Sandy made landfall October 29th, 2012. Obama suspended his campaign at that time, so did Mitt Romney, to his credit, and then this concert with Bruce Springsteen and Jay-Z happened on November 5th. So, I mean, I don't know, his tweets aren't really aging well.
Yeah. So that, I mean, I'll do the math for you. That's a full week later. Meanwhile, this guy didn't even wait 7 hours, and he's the president. And he's like, we had the White House, we had great response. What are you talking about? You had so far it appears a terrible response. 13 people dead, all those people without cell phone service, without food, water. And by the way, right now, a lot of people are rummaging through the stores to get food and water, depending on the community that's being called resourceful or looting. So kind of depends on where you're from. Look at these pictures.
Oh my God.
Does it look like they were? I mean, look, it's Mother Nature, and you know, there's nothing you can do when the storm hits, but there's a lot you can do preparing for the storm and after the storm. And the question is, did they do the proper amount of preparation? Look, when it comes to FEMA, that's an open question, and we'll see how the rest of the government responded. Does anyone think that Donald Trump did enough preparation as the president? Or does he just love going to rallies? It's fun. He doesn't want to cancel it. They cheer for him. And it's so much. That's like one of the fun parts of the job. Now I got to cancel it. I don't want to do that. But really, to be fair, if he didn't cancel it, do you think he would have been doing a lot of homework anyway? Do you think he would have been in a command center like, hey, how are we getting the food down there? How are we evacuating people, etc.? No, he wouldn't have done any of that stuff. Anyway, he hates homework.
Right. Cenk, are you one of his natural haters? Is that what's happening? I'm on a show with his natural haters. No, I mean, he's the president of the United States. He's not Justin Bieber, and Justin Bieber, for the record, probably gets way more people lining up for much longer. What really frightens...
It probably has done more for Florida.
Exactly. I mean, I think what somebody should have done in his cabinet is lie to him and tell him that it could maybe affect Mar-a-Lago, and then maybe there would have been some sort of response from him. I mean, 9,000 people at a rally versus 1.5 million people without electricity, and we don't even know the exact numbers around food shortages and other fallout that's going to happen from this. So the thing that's most alarming to me is that we have an administration of climate deniers, and there is absolutely little preparation, and that's another conversation we can have, but there's even less response. And for me, like, okay, I really don't want you to deny climate change, but please don't neglect the preparation and the post-game around it either, because this is gonna only increase exponentially for years to come.
Yes, I love that you brought that up. And it's a very dangerous cocktail, because not only do they deny climate change and promote policies that further exacerbate these issues and these extreme weather conditions, but remember, important government programs like FEMA are funded through what? Through taxpayer money, right? And right now, we've just cut tax revenue because, hey, the wealthy need more tax cuts. We need to cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. And then when you take the effective tax rate into account, it's even less than that. And so, I mean, if we're not going to be able to fund the government organizations that help with relief efforts, and we're also going to ignore the very serious issue of climate change, this is going to get worse. Every year it's going to get worse. And we've noticed that these hurricanes are happening with more frequency, they're happening with more severity. And, you know, when the whole situation happened with Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and continues to happen, by the way, I think that there was this thought among some of Trump's base that, well, those are the others, even though they're U.S. citizens and it's part of the United States, right? But this is an example of people in Florida, people in parts of the country that voted for Trump being neglected and ignored, okay? He doesn't care who you are, where you're from. All he cares about is himself, and he proves that time and time again.
Right, just to piggyback on that, there's no empathy
Yeah.
from Trump, 45, and he's supposed to be a leader of the free world. And it just kind of reminds me of when he was in Puerto Rico handing out paper towels and he was kind of like shooting it like a basketball. And
Yeah.
like, what are you thinking? I don't.
Well, they were big, beautiful towels, so.
But you're right.
Soft towels.
Yeah.
They were in plastic. How would you know?
Great absorption.
Yeah, he's such a maniac. Okay, so let me build off of that. Administrator for FEMA, Mr. Long, said there's a lesson here about building codes. Yeah, so there's a reason why you need regulations, and if you build houses and buildings next to the water in Florida, which is constantly hit by hurricanes, that is why you need regulation. So next time you hear a Republican go, oh, we're just going to deregulate, think about what happened in the Panhandle just now, right? And the former mayor, Tom Bailey, in that area said the mother of all bombs doesn't do any more damage than this. That is literally true, because that only hits a certain area, whereas this hit a wide swath of Florida. The Carolinas got hit again, Virginia, and obviously you see the devastation, the pictures and the videos. And yes, the one bomb could not possibly do that. Mother Nature is nothing to mess with. But we have messed with her, and now she's messing back. And so it is climate change. So when you see those pictures, that's what it is. It's not 50 years from now. It's not 100 years from now. It's not binary. It doesn't just happen overnight. It happens gradually, and the storms get worse and worse and more frequent. So even by September 19th, we had 30% more storms than average in the Western Pacific and Atlantic, and then we had several other major storms, and then Hurricane Michael hit. So this is way more than average. And so climate change, a lot of times people feel like, oh, okay, I gotta throw away my plastic bottle, and it's gonna happen 100 years from now, and it's happening to some island nation, and their water is rising, and it's something in the North Pole, but it doesn't affect me. No, these people died right now, certainly because of climate change. And so I'm not saying that any one hurricane you can tell is, directly connected, and it's not that hurricanes did not exist before. But the whole point of what all of the world's scientists told you, and they were right, it's called science, is that if the weather was going to get more extreme, we were going to have more storms, and they were going to be more forceful. That is exactly what has happened. So that story that you mentioned, Anna, about Sarah Radney, she's 11 years old. And then look, 13 people died so far, and a lot of people we don't know, there might be a lot more deaths because we can't reach them. So it's not just Puerto Rico. We can't reach people in Florida right now, okay? And a lot of the roads are destroyed. So was there good planning for that? Well, it certainly doesn't appear so. But Sarah, her dad, she was with her grandparents because of fall break. Her dad's calling in every hour, every half hour to make sure that she's okay. They're like, no, she's all right. We're all inside. We're not outside. We're doing the best we can. And a carport flies off because it's 155-mile-per-hour wind. A steel beam flies through the air, goes through the house, hits the little girl and the grandmother. The grandmother's lung is punctured, the ribs are broken, and the girl gets hit in the head. The dad is obviously in a panic. He's trying to drive up there, trying to make calls, and in the middle of it, they say, too late, she passed away, okay? So, yes, she partly died because of climate change. So it has devastating consequences. Understand that, absorb that, so we can make the right policy decision. We're sitting around here chasing ghosts because of right-wing paranoia and fear. They're passing laws against Sharia law in Oklahoma. Yeah, they're worried about Muslims taking over Tulsa. Meanwhile, we got climate change killing American citizens day in, day out. Wake up to the real danger in this country.
And our response to that is what? To put people who are at the forefront of deregulation, at the forefront of the fossil fuel industry, to be the head of EPA.
Yeah.
And so there is no surprise that when you have the rising temperature, the UN report by 2030 is our point of no return. That's not too far away. That's 12 years away. And for the planet to rise in temperature 1.5 degrees, and all the hurricanes need is moisture and high temperatures, I mean, we're going to get, the severity is going to increase, more people are going to die, and it could have been preventable.
And we can still do something about it. And right now, our current politicians say, no, it's a Chinese hoax. Apparently a Chinese hoax just killed 13 people in America. It's not a hoax. 97% now, actually now 99% of the world's scientists didn't all get, those tens, hundreds of thousands of scientists all across the world didn't get together and decide to launch a conspiracy. That is, anyone who thinks that is either incredibly stupid or purposely lying to you because they get bribed by the fossil fuel industry and is leading to your family members getting killed. That's the real danger, and currently our government does nothing about it because they're part of the people taking the bribes.
Can we just have more speakers and not deniers?
Yeah.
Like,
Just people with an open mind and, uncorrupt pockets, I guess. That's
right now we can't. And look, why if you're wondering, if you watch the show on a regular basis, why do you keep coming back to money and politics? Because it's the root of all problems. They're literally paid to do nothing and let the danger fester and get worse and worse and worse. So if you lost a family member in this hurricane, it's partly because, yes, Jim Inhofe and Scott Pruitt and Donald Trump, they all took bribes from the oil companies to make sure they don't do anything about climate change. Because if you did, you might do a carbon tax. Oh boy, that would affect their profits. Anything you do might affect their profits. God forbid ExxonMobil, one of the most profitable companies in the world, should make $10 less. So if they gotta sacrifice your kids, well, that's a sad day for you, not for them. They're gonna keep on taking those bribes.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we will tell you what's going on with the voter polls in Georgia. It's not looking good, so we're going to give you the information on the real voter fraud that's going on.
And look, it's a level of cheating that is now so absolutely clear. We're going to show you the numbers. We'll show you how Republicans cheat all the time. They're the ones who do voter fraud. So it's indisputable. We'll do that when we return. The Young Turks are going to Politicon, and this year it's going to be amazing. I'm going to be taking on Tucker Carlson in a debate. You don't want to miss it. Hassan Piker versus Charlie Kirk being dubbed Uno Mas, a rematch from last year. I'm the only one dubbing it that, but still, it's going to be exciting. Charlie Kirk's from Turning Points USA. Okay, so you don't want to miss that debate either. Anna Kasperi will be on several panels. She'll probably take on half a dozen conservatives at once. But that's not all. We've got other Young Turks partners as well. Kyle Kalinski's going to be there. The Kyle driver. Teray is going to be there. Ida Rodriguez, Richard Fowler, Sam Cedar. We're about to make Politicon. Hashtag too strong. So here's what you need to do to get a ticket. Go to politicon.com and use the promo code TYT at checkout to get alerts on all things TYT at Politicon. See you there.
Consumer products sold under the Teflon brand are safe. DuPont did in fact ask EPA to make those statements, correct?
That's correct.
When I was pregnant with Bucky, I worked for DuPont, around Teflon. They tried to blame me. They said it was something that I did. The more they would tell me that, the more suspicious I got.
You did see there was a substantial risk to the women at the DuPont plant.
There was no potential risk to the women. There was potential risk to the fetus.
It's used in consumer products, manufacturing products. The applications were endless. These Teflon and Scotchgard chemicals permeated the living world. Today, every baby is born with Teflon chemicals in their blood.
DuPont and another company called 3M had been studying this chemical dating back to the 1950s and 1960s.
Did you work with a lot of other people that have been sick or died early?
Carol Kaplan, Jim Rockwell, Joy Weaver, Steve Bailey, Lana Carr.
They are aware of the risk of the product.
Risk is relative.
If I go out here and sprinkle arsenic around, they'd arrest me for murder.
You've lied, and they're still lying.
Everybody in this area, in one way or another, is connected to DuPont. You go dealing with somebody's line
about, do we need to come up with something in our production that's not going to cause these problems? They conclude if we launch something new, it's going to cost us a lot of money. We have to stick with the devil we know.
Was I a guinea pig? What do you think? You've heard of the blue wave. You've heard of the red wave, which doesn't exist. But have you heard of the TYT wave? What is that, you ask? I do. Well, you can help the Young Turks win Show of the Year. How awesome would that be? That's in the Streaming Awards. So here's how you do it. Super simple. Hashtag TYT for Streamings. You use it in a tweet. Boom, that's your vote. And you can keep voting every day till October 19th. Retweets even count. So here's a fun game. Trick conservatives into accidentally voting for us. Put hashtag TYT for Streamies in your tweet and say something where they go, oh yeah, I disagree, but oops, you just retweeted it. That's a vote. Let's go get it done. Let's go become Show of the Year. That'll be awesome. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me just give a couple of comments here from people who were affected by the hurricane. Maxwell Crystal writes in on YouTube Super Chat. In Virginia Beach, I lost power 10 times. Friends showed me pictures of trees uprooted, and to think the hurricane just nicked us, right? And think about, of course, obviously people got direct hit. Now we go to Rachel in the member section, and Rachel says, it pisses me off that I have friends who have lost everything in Hurricane Michael. A friend who broke their leg in the recovery effort, family who have no place to call home anymore. And for 45 minutes, he continues to talk about himself the entire time.
Yeah.
He doesn't care, and his administration doesn't care. They never did, and they never will. So it's true, and if you're hoping for this guy to come and protect you, which is part of the integral part of the job as president, unless you're rich and powerful, good luck. Help is not on the way. People on Twitter pointed out this is the poorest part of Florida, the Panhandle, and so hey, less help got to you. Shocking. But let me end on a lighter note. Gabby Burrito writes in, Donald Trump speaks like a poorly programmed knockoff of Google Translate. And Progressive Todd says they're probably paid actors. Are there any lengths that George Soros won't go to? Now he bribed a whole town to destroy itself. So, you never know when that conspiracy theory is coming. And let me tell you real quick about one of our sponsors, NordVPN. You guys have heard me talk about it before, but you got to get the 66% off to protect your computer. In fact, I was reading about it in the context of the Donald Trump story. I got to tell you guys about it. Either over the weekend I'll do a live video or on Monday. The server that I told you about a long time ago in Pennsylvania, it definitely was doing communications with Alpha Bank in Russia. No question about it. And the knuckleheads didn't use a VPN. I'm not kidding. It was in the story. Yes. So they did not protect themselves, and now they might pay a huge price. So use nordvpn.com/TYT, get the 66% off. They've got military-grade encryption, and they got a perfect score for PC Mag. It's too bad, or lucky for us, Trump did not see this earlier.
Yeah, guys, when you're communicating about your money laundering, just make sure you use a VPN. Anyway, all right. I'm being sarcastic. Don't money launder, it's bad. You might go to jail. Okay, unless you're the president. Okay, moving on. Voting rights continue to be a huge controversial topic in the state of Georgia, where it appears that its Secretary of State, a man by the name of Brian Kemp, who is also running for governor, is doing everything he can to take certain people off the voter rolls and prevent them from voting. Now, the certain people I'm talking about mostly consists of the minority community, the black community in Georgia. Now, there have been two main policies implemented in the state of Georgia that have essentially disenfranchised voters. They're overseen by Kemp and have drawn criticism and legal challenges. Georgia's exact match registration verification process and the mass cancellation of inactive voter registrations. So one of the things that's happening, we've talked about this on the show before, is they're pretending like they're trying to verify the addresses of voters. And so they supposedly sent out these mailers asking people to respond back to verify their address. Many people didn't receive those mailers. I'm guessing that some people probably lost them or saw them and thought it was just junk mail. But either way, tens of thousands of people have been taken off the voter roll, so 53,000 to be specific. Also, under the policy, information on voter applications must precisely match information on file with the Georgia Department of Driver Services or Social Security Administration. So if there's even a small mistake, so for instance, if there is a missing hyphen in a hyphenated last name, they will be kicked off the voter rolls. Okay.
So that's the one of the two issues. That's the exact match registration. So if it doesn't match perfectly, then they're like, no, you're on hold, and there's all these people that are being put on hold, and they might not be able to vote. And there's a reason why they're doing it. Is it because they're really sticklers for grammar, or they're really worried about rampant voter fraud? There's almost no cases of voter fraud in Georgia. There's 13 in the whole country. It is a minuscule, non-existent problem the Republicans invented to suppress the vote. And wait till you see what percentage this applies to for African Americans.
Yes.
That's the real reason they're doing it.
So first, I want to be clear about what's been going on in the state of Georgia overall when it comes to voters being disenfranchised. This has been going on for a while, okay? It's gotten worse this year because of Kemp and his very tight race with Stacey Abrams for governor. But Kemp's office has canceled over 1.4 million voter registrations since 2012. Nearly 670,000 registrations were canceled in 2017 alone, okay?
So let me be clear about context here. So from time to time, do you need to cancel voter registrations? Yes. Why? Because things like people die and they move, and so they're not there anymore. I don't live in New Jersey anymore. You got to clear my name from the voter rolls in New Jersey because I'm in California now, okay? So it's not a thing that is, it doesn't have to be done to do voter purges, okay? But that's why you have to look at the numbers. And is it an extreme number? Who does it target? What has been the effect? And in fact, historically, were a number of states since the Civil Rights Act that would systematically discriminate against minorities, and they would do so by doing voter purges only in certain areas or in certain ways that were meant to affect African Americans more. Now, they had to clear it with the courts before they did it in the past, but this right-wing court said, no, you don't have to clear it anymore. Go back to any discrimination you like, and after you win the elections, they can bring it up and good luck to them. Okay, so it's now a joke. So the 1.4 million number since 2012 for Brian Kemp and what he did in Georgia is a huge number, but that pales in comparison to this year. 670,000 in just this year. Now,
in 2017.
I'm sorry, 2017. Now, why? Now, Brian Kemp is the Secretary of State. He knows that what position he's going to run for, and now in 2018 he does run for it. He's running for governor. He's maintaining the race for himself. So he's getting to make the decisions of which voters to exclude in a race he's in. So everybody's like, well, you got to obviously recuse yourself. He said, nope, I don't care.
He refuses.
Yeah, not only will I not recuse myself, I'll cheat. I'll actively cheat and block your voters.
So he claims, like, we got to get into the demographic numbers, right? Because that's what the most relevant part of this. So it appears that he's specifically targeting the black community, and the numbers prove that, okay? So Georgia's population is approximately 32% black, and that's according to the U.S. Census. But the list of voter registrations on hold with Kemp's office is nearly 70% black. Gee, I wonder why. And he thinks, well, the way that he's trying to portray this in the media, because of course he's getting a lot of criticism for this, is no, this is nothing more than a made-up left-wing conspiracy. That's not what's happening. I'm just trying to ensure that there isn't voter fraud in my state.
Right. So the
Total lie.
Yes, that is
total lie. So the civil rights group Color of Change has called this a return to the Jim Crow Act, or to the Jim Crow time period and era that was before the civil rights movement had put legislation that overturned Jim Crow laws across the country. And this exact match scenario actually violates the Voting Rights Act, which the civil rights movement put into law. And what's interesting is the lawyers' Committee for Civil Rights under law successfully sued Kemp for doing the same exact thing in 2016, using this exact match scheme where he tried to put 40,000 registrations on hold. So he has a history of doing this. He has a history of being successfully sued for it. So the fact that he wouldn't recuse himself is not only obnoxious, but he knows he has a chance of losing big time, because Stacey Abrams could be the first black woman governor in U.S. history, and they're not ready to give that up at all. And
in Georgia.
In Georgia.
In Virginia, we had a black governor.
Oh, woman?
Oh, no, not a
sorry.
woman.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, woman. Yeah.
Black governor. That's
Yeah. So she would be the first, and this is a really tight race. And this is, I mean, we have to watch out for this because there are so many schemes that the Republican Party and the Trump administration have put into effect that are eroding your civil liberties, your civil rights, and they're doing it either under your nose or without mainstream media putting intense focus on something that will take away your rights. I mean, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, no, look, everybody who cares should be outraged. I mean, look, if you're a Republican, are you proud of this? It's like, haha, we get to cheat, and we blocked 70% African Americans, and then you go around saying, oh, where do you guys get racism from? Now, I know that the main reason Kemp's doing it is because he's a cheater and wants to win, and he'll do it at any cost, and it just so happens that African Americans vote against Republicans, so he's like, then I gotta block African Americans. So I don't know what's in his heart about, does he hate black people? I don't know, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But it doesn't matter that his actions affect blacks clearly, decisively, indisputably, disproportionately. It's clearly affecting blacks more. Well, that is a racial and racist outcome. And so, at a bare minimum, he doesn't care. In fact, he revels in it. I don't know if he's like joking, but he's, this is also partly racist. He says, no, it's their problem because they didn't adequately fill out the forms. Okay, and I mean, it's just that's a dog whistle. They don't know what they're doing. It's their fault, not my fault. And the Republican Party does this, unfortunately. This is maybe the most brazen case because it affects 70% African Americans, right? Gee, I wonder if that was an accident. That's not remotely an accident. But the Republican Party does this throughout the country, and they study different ways of how do you do voter suppression without saying, hey, I'm just going to pick black people and Latinos or whoever and make sure they don't get to vote. If you do that, well, then the courts say, okay, that's obviously racist. You're picking black people because they're black. So what do? They've studied all the data. One of the things that they've found is that it turns out that minorities, African Americans most, I think Asians second and Latinos third, have the same name. So there'll be two Doug Jones in the same county. So what they do is they say, all right, we're wiping out all the people with same names. And for whatever reason, as it turns out, that affects whites significantly less than minorities. So it wipes away a lot of minorities disproportionately, and then they go, what? I didn't do it based on race. But they do it all over because they know that is the exact purpose. Here in Georgia, here's another example. Brian Kemp, the well-known cheater, a fraud, who's running for governor right now. Another trick he tried to do was close down the majority of polling stations in a black county. Okay, and the county eventually was like, no, we're not going to do it. So he does it on purpose. He picks black counties. He says, okay, if I shut down enough polling stations, I'll get to say, well, there was a couple that were open, but it makes it much harder for you to vote, much more inconvenient, and it makes the lines in the other polling stations way longer, and then you might be late to work and lose your job, etc. So it's a way of systematically discriminating against African Americans on purpose. What is that? It's both cheating and being a goddamn racist, which is what Brian Kemp is. I know that conservatives they cry all the time when you point out facts about what they do, but this has clear racist results. That's who Brian Kemp is. If your excuse for him is, Yeah, but he has a lust for power, and that's why he did it, not because he hates black people. Congratulations.
Well, the thing is, the Republican Party actually hasn't been able to win successfully in, I would say, decades in major races. So they've either resorted to gerrymandering, voter suppression, or something we rarely talk about anymore because it was decided by the governor of Florida and the Supreme Court at the time, was Bush's presidential election in 2000, which was a classic case of voter fraud, of charging people around voter fraud, for hanging chads, and then his brother was the governor of Florida, and he just went right through to becoming president of the United States. So the Republican Party hasn't been successfully winning, so they're going all out in their cheating schemes, whether it is colluding with the Russians or practicing systematic racist Jim Crow era strategies to do so.
I just want people who pretend like they're outraged by the disrespect shown by NFL players kneeling to stop. Just please stop pretending like you care about our democracy, you care about what this country stands for, you care about what the soldiers are protecting. You don't care about any of that, because this is the kind of thing you should be outraged about, regardless of which political party is doing it. Now, if Democrats were doing it, we would be outraged. When the DNC was conducting itself the way it was during this past election, we were outraged about that. We criticized Hillary's campaign as a result of that, because that was not okay. But look, we're talking about two different sides that play by two different rules. You have a group of people who want to be principled and want to do the right thing because they actually value democracy, and then you have the other side. To answer your point, Cenk, are Republicans proud of this? Hell yeah, they're proud of this. Do you see them, getting upset about it? Do you see them, trying to protect voters in the state of Georgia? Of course they don't. They've been trying to, spread this false narrative of voter fraud since 2012.
Yeah, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, we can systematically block white males from voting disproportionately because they vote in higher numbers for Republicans, you want to do it? I'd say, of course not. Who the hell that believes in democracy would want to do that? If you think that they vote more for Republicans, then go convince them to vote for Democrats. That's how you do it. But that's because we actually have integrity, unlike Republicans who don't care about that at all. And what Anna's point is 100% fair. If you're a Republican, are you calling out Brian Kemp? No, you're not.
No, they're still crying about UC Berkeley and students protesting Ben Shapiro. That's what they're crying about.
There are no Republican politicians calling out Brian Kemp for his obvious voter fraud, cheating, racism, all of it. No one calling him out. What happened to the line of logic that Republicans usually use? Well, the moderate Muslims should be calling out the extreme Muslims. Well, moderate Republicans, why aren't you calling out this extreme Republican who's clearly cheating in this election? By the way, his opponent is not just any old Democrat. As Maitland pointed out, she's African American. And then he happened to block African American votes and try to limit polling in African American counties in Georgia. What a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, and you know it. You know he's an absolute cheater, and I don't see a single goddamn Republican doing anything about it. In fact, you revel in it. So just admit it. You're part of a party who doesn't like democracy, you like cheating, and that's why you're proud of guys like Brian Kemp. I think I was clear about that. Was I clear enough? By the way, Stacey Abrams is a wonderful progressive, and we will have links down below if you're watching us later on YouTube or Facebook, so you can to our website so you can find out more and try to help her. And if you live in Georgia, I don't care if you're African American, any other race, I don't care what you are, you should not stand for this. They're trying to block your vote. You should all show up in record numbers in Georgia and send this Brian Kemp home. Otherwise, he's going to be your governor, and he's going to actively oppress you for the entirety of his term. End his career. End his career right now.
Yeah, and show up for black women, because black women have showed up in the Roy Moore election. Black women have showed up to try to prevent Trump from becoming president. The least you could do is show up for an incredible, not just because she's a black woman, like Cenk said, she's an incredible progressive politician. Look up her politics, look up her policy proposals, and get Kemp out of business. Yeah.
All right, unfortunately we're out of time. Wonderful power panel. Thank you so much for joining us, Jake and Maytha. Mike McClintock from Veep is next to him. He's actually, I don't know if you know that, he's an actor. Great power panel coming up, amazing stories, and including Melania Trump saying, "Could Rudy Giuliani he's not telling the truth. So drums, lots to get to. We'll be right back. Where were you the first time you heard TYT? Sounds like a bit like a tragedy, right? I remember where I was when I first heard TYT. All right, no, but we do want to know because these are great stories and we appreciate it and we love sharing with everybody. So we want to hear from our members on why you joined, why it took you until now. That's an interesting question. What specifically about TYT made you interested? And be honest with us and we'll share it all. Now, as you know, we're in week 6 of our membership drive and we're hoping to get to 100,000 members so that this is a solid rock and you can never move the home of progressives. That's what we're trying to do here. And so some of our fans have told us why they decided to join, so we wanted to share it with you guys. So let's start with Kim. Kim told us, Anna, I love your passion. Jake and you are perfect together and I'm so glad I found you in 2006. I left an abusive marriage and you helped me become strong again. Thank you, TYT. Proud to be part of the 27,661. That's the number of members we had before the membership drive. Thank you for being with us for so long and for being strong. Now, TYT Rebel Warrior says, only a liar would not want an FBI investigation into their actions in the past, since lying to the FBI is a crime. Also proud to finally be an activist member. You guys keep everything 100 and have given me the best on both sides of the issues. And thank you for not only being a member, but being an activist. That makes a big difference. Lacey told us, I love your TYT. Blown away at how raw, honest, and real you are. So proud to be a member and thankful for your sacrifice and voices. Thanks for trudging through on those hard news days and standing up for progressive values. I'm politically active for the first time in my life because I can understand issues as a result of the real reporting here and honesty. It's so refreshing. I've given more money to progressive candidates since I joined TYT than I have my whole life. Yay for a sane news outlet. And thank you, Lacey, for actually helping other progressives win. Makes a huge difference. Lastly, we heard from our friend Chris, who said, just signed up as a TYT member. I've been watching more and more TYT this year. I thought I was watching TYT live every day. Want to watch all the other shows and definitely want to see all the coverage on election night. Really enjoying it. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to all of you guys who wrote in. We really appreciate it. Come join us, become a member, be on the left side of history, and if you aren't yet, please come to tyt.com/join and make a difference. Get animated about it. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty. I care. Instead of saying this, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question. How dare you? That's the problem. You're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Wait, look. It's the liberal media. No. These are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists. For us, this system isn't working. So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
So what's happening in the Democratic Party is what used to happen in the general election. We would have a person who represented workers and the people and the voters, and then the Republicans would represent business and corporations and Wall Street. That's happening all inside the Democratic Party this time.
We're going to rock the boat. We're going to be counter-establishment. We're going to tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're going to keep it real with them.
Our system is inherently rigged against the will of the people.
They have 50% of the vote, and in a democracy they should have 50% of the seats.
But if you live in an insanely gerrymandered district, your vote functionally doesn't matter.
We drew the map in a way that even though we get 50% of the vote, we're going to get 13 out of the 18 seats.
You don't actually have the ability to translate the will of the voters in your area into actual government policy.
They should not be allowed to gerrymander these districts. We should actually have a democracy. All right, back in the Young Turks. Oh, no, drop it. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Obviously, new power panel. Ida Rodriguez joins us again. Great to have you, Ida. Matt Walsh is here, everybody. Okay. So Matt is in like 28 of my favorite movies.
and TV shows. So Veep, I love Veep. As much awards, etc., as it has gotten, it is still underrated.
Wow, that's high praise. Thank you.
And I talk about it all the time. And Matt nominated for 2 Emmys for his performance in Veep and a Screen Actors Guild Award nomination as well. Look, I can go all day with this resume, but former correspondent for The Daily Show on Old School, Bad Santa, Road Trip, Elf, Step Brothers, Hangover, and the list goes on and on. So Matt,
10 billion in box office.
Is that right?
All those, no, I'm kidding.
You're good, man. And all because of you.
Yeah, all because of me. Now let's do your resume.
I'm on Instagram.
I'm barely on Instagram. I'm barely on Instagram.
Yeah, because you're working.
I don't know.
All right, let me just do 2 quick comments from the audience, then we'll go on. Del Mori writes that Republicans are keenly aware that they are not in the majority. This is why they now have a talking point that the U.S. is not a democracy. Instead, it is a constitutional republic. Yeah, it's weird to have it in, like, that the U.S. is not a democracy talking point, unless you think we're never going to win in a democracy again. And that's kind of where they are right now. They're on that doorstep, at least. Okay, and then Meg writes in, Republicans keep complaining that the left is an angry mob lately. They are certainly trying their hardest to make that fear a reality with this voter purge nonsense. So they keep punching you in the face and they keep asking you, why are you so mad? Right?
We have a story about that later in the show. It's about Rand Paul's wife and how she sleeps with a loaded gun right next to her because she's afraid of angry liberals. Anyway, it's a fantastic story. So I can't wait to get...
She should never take Ambien.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You know what you're doing with that.
Yeah.
So let me check the thermometer real quick. We haven't talked about it at all. We're still in the middle of a membership drive. tyt.com/join to become a member. 32,883. So we're trying to get to 33,000. I said by the end of the day, like 2 days ago. That didn't happen. Keeping it real. End of the week. Can I say end of the week? To get to 33,000? All right. tyt.com/join. You make this show possible. You can get all 18 of our shows and commercial free if you're a member. Thank you. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. The White House is planning on looking into why Fox News is not carrying Donald Trump's rallies in its entirety or in some cases at all, which is, by the way, a scary headline by itself. The White House shouldn't have to investigate something like that. But yes, it turns out that Fox is now refusing to air some of Trump's rallies, and it's all because of business. Let's keep it real. It's all about numbers. It is a numbers game, and his rallies are just not bringing in the ratings that they used to. This story is great. So, according to Politico, as he's ramped up his rally schedule ahead of the midterms, viewership numbers for the primetime events have been roughly similar to and sometimes dipping below Fox News' regular programming, and the network has recently stopped airing most events in full. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So on August 30th, Fox News' 8 p.m. hour was mostly consumed by Trump's rally in Indiana, earning 2.536 million viewers compared to the 2.8 million viewers Tucker Carlson averaged at that time during 2018's third quarter.
So let me give you a little bit of context to this, because I was on cable news for a little while. So hosts don't love it when their shows are interrupted. They get pretty cranky. And they want to be on there, they prepared a show, presumably, and then they get doubly cranky when their show is interrupted and it gets worse ratings. Because that's actually figured into their ratings for the quarter, the month, and is part of how they're judged at the end of the day.
That's crazy, by the way.
Yes.
I'd be grumpy about that too.
Yeah. And so now, the second part of it, probably going ahead of you here a little bit, Anna, but is that they carry the complete rallies, so they can't put in commercials. Mm-hmm. So it costs them money in 2 different ways. So, rah, Donald Trump, wait a minute, I just got a check that's less than the one I used to get. Not so much.
Yeah, I love the story, if you couldn't tell. And I love it because it shows that you know, Trump, with his rallies at least, is a one-trick pony. He does the same thing over and over and over again. And look, I like steak, but I don't want to eat steak every day. I'll get tired of steak.
Especially if it's well done with ketchup.
Right. And look, I don't mean to insult steak by comparing him to Trump, but my point is, it's the one-trick pony thing over and over again, and people get kind of fatigued. They get tired of it. You're only entertained so many times watching the same thing over and over again. So, and remember, his rallies in the last election were very successful. It really did help his campaign, and it appears that, you know, that's not a winning strategy anymore. At least it's starting to look that way.
See what you did, Kanye? You see what you did? He'll get blamed for it eventually. I mean,
But in a different universe, though, Kanye is really helping Donald Trump.
oh, I'm sure. And Donald Trump is helping him. And I hope they help each other to the crazy house, because that's where they both is on. No offense. And all the offense you can possibly take. But what I think that some people are actually waking up. And I think that, unfortunately, for some people who are not collective thinkers, something has to directly affect them for them to feel like, oh no, this is not, it's okay for the black people, it's okay for the immigrants, it's okay for the women, but not me. And I just think that now, which one is my camera? This one? This one, okay. I'm always looking into the wrong camera. But I just think that people are waking up, and regardless of what the motivation is, if it is selfish, I think people are tired of hearing the same stuff over and over again, while all the injustices close in on everybody who's not in that top 1%.
Yeah, it's so bizarre just to have a conversation about a president who's bummed out that his favorite buddies at the network are starting to get bored with him. Like,
Right.
it's bizarre. It's just, I mean, you guys are much more on top of the news, but it's just another reminder of how beyond normalcy we are. Just like, this isn't news. It's awesome because we all fucking, oh, darn it.
It's okay.
Freaking hate Trump.
Yeah.
So we're just happy when he's losing, and when we're happy when we see the veil crack, because he is a man driven by vanity and ego. This is the only thing he cares about. They don't care about anything.
Right.
He cares about his image and his popularity, and he would love nothing more than have. That's why, in other ways, Kanye tickled his celebrity, his, kiss, ASS. He likes celebrity. I can say ass?
Yes.
Got it. I need that sheet. Get that out of your
Yeah. And Matt brought a little bit of deep here.
I said fricking. Go back and look at it. I said fricking.
But just to comment on the whole Kanye thing, like, if you focus specifically on Trump's face as Kanye is, praising him, this is what Trump lives for. The constant praise, the constant validation, and that's why he loves these rallies. It's the number one thing he likes to do, and he is concerned that his buddies aren't carrying the rallies in full, or in some cases aren't carrying the rally at all, because it is free advertising for him. And he does see Fox as state-sponsored, television, news. And so one of the comments from one of his anonymous campaign operatives made me laugh, because this person said, quote, photographic 38, "If every night Trump does a rally, a station carries it, you just become the president's station." So he's arguing, no, maybe it's a good thing that Fox isn't doing this, because we don't want Fox to appear to be like state-sponsored news. But that's exactly what they are. Even if they're not covering his rallies, all they do is twist the reality of any given news event to Trump's advantage, which is why you go to these Trump rallies and, we have reporters who will interview some of his base and ask questions, and so many of them are either misinformed or uninformed, and it's devastating because they just watch Fox. That's their only source of news.
Martha McCollum complained the other day. She's like, I can't believe people think Fox is state TV. Really? You can't believe it? Like, that's a big surprise to you? So I don't know who they think they're kidding. But I will tell you that it is a bipartisan problem because, number one, when I was at MSNBC, they asked me to support the Democratic Party. And so that's real. And they didn't say the Democratic Party. They talked in code words. We were in Washington. They don't like your tone. Remember who the home team is, etc. And then, and we have
people who have said on air, and off the record to me as well, MSNBC hosts through the 2016 election. The Clinton campaign would call them all the time, and if they didn't like something that was on air, they'd yell at them. What business is it of yours? What do you? I mean, you're not. They shouldn't be the home team, but unfortunately, it's broken down into that. We try to avoid that here, not because it's not clear what our perspective is. I'm a progressive. I'm super proud of it, right? But we're not on any political team, and you shouldn't be on a political team. Unless they've earned your, their vote and loyalty in whichever facet that you look at it. But for these media organizations to be totally in the tank, until of course it affects their bottom line. And then all of a sudden Fox News is like, yeah, I like you. I'm not sure I like you that much that I'm going to cost myself this much money. Last thing is that, remember, this has a big political impact. Because he's doing those rallies theoretically, he's just doing it for fun in reality, but theoretically to help those particular candidates in places like Pennsylvania and all the different places that he's gone. He just went to Erie, Pennsylvania. And when they're not carried in prime time on Fox News, then the word doesn't get out as much about those candidates, and then that hurts their chances.
I just wanted to quickly say, you should be alarmed. Everyone should be alarmed. Being someone who was raised in a house, raised by a political prisoner from Cuba, just to hear that the White House is investigating a news station because they are going to dial back on what they are airing should make every American concerned. Like, you should be concerned about this that's going on and the tone that they're taking and the authority that they feel that they have over us and our media, trying to shove the president down our throats with incorrect information and programming a lot of people who don't know any better. So if nothing, you should be alarmed by that.
And the nonstop attacks on the press for simply doing their jobs and reporting, accurate content, accurate news about Trump. So they're the enemy of the people. At every rally, he makes a point to the media in the back and antagonize them in some way. All of this stuff is concerning, especially if you consider yourself an individual who cares about free speech. Again, free speech doesn't only mean protections for Ben Shapiro when he wants to go speak at Berkeley. Free speech means protecting the press and giving them the ability and opportunity to do their jobs.
I'll tell you this, though. If he starts attacking Fox News, well, then that's pretty much it for him. I mean, he's got nothing else left. So I do look forward to that, if it ever comes to that.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, Melania Trump, what she has to say about Rudy Giuliani and being the most bullied person on the world.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hunt. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bay.
Hashtag one black friend.
We're thinking more rings.
I got him here.
You need more accessories. Way more accessories.
I don't know where to put it.
Come on, throw these on. Woke bay, not sleep bay.
More sexy too.
When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour.
What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with?
No. We need more accessories. We need.
This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't. For your gay audience, man.
Yeah, the gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week.
Do we have like a kimono or something?
Yeah, that looks good on you,
dude. Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do you have any more?
I got 3.
Yeah, can we get more rings on there?
And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles were doing well. How is it?
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have?
Only like 100,000.
So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah, 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 social issues. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, mother. Dab.
Okay,
Dab.
There you go.
More. Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it. So many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. That helps the brand.
We made you. We got you verified.
You're nothing
come
without
on.
us.
So I don't know what else I need to do here.
Just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram. Hashtag WokeBay. Please follow me.
Young Turks Special Election Day coverage rapid! An amazing power panel. Look at this panel! We're talking about power!
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We start a revolution! Yes, another one! Aren't you excited?
Wow. Some of the best writers in the country are right here on this panel, with the obvious exception of John Irola.
Let's not so quickly discount Harry Potter fanfiction.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
You know, I can't get over the fact that Donald Trump already has lower numbers than George Bush did after Katrina.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Their legislation is always accompanied by some kind of moral judgment, right? This idea that poverty is a choice.
What ran me away from Christianity was judgment and condemnation.
Assaulting peaceful protesters in North Dakota, crazier than bombing Yemen, crazier than bombing Syria so much they ran out of bombs. You mean crazier than funding ISIS and trying to knock off Assad at the same time?
Amazing footage came out today of a 5-year-old child being miraculously pulled from rubble in Aleppo. A miracle and a reminder of the horror of that conflict is still present every single day.
My name is Sophie Tsai, and I'm a video editor and producer at TYT. I edit Facebook originals, Aggressive Progressives, but I also work on Main Show. I produce the Happy Half Hour. I think my happiest moment is spending time with my coworkers outside of work, hanging out with them and getting to know what they like to do or what movies they like to watch and what hobbies they have. My hobby is playing with my dog and going out to eat. I think that's my favorite thing to do on the weekends.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cheryl writes in, I wonder how Trump will react to the news about Fox. He's always measuring everything in terms of ratings. That's right. That's no question. He's super bummed about it. And then on Twitter, Omega Cat writes in, ratings are down for Trump's rallies on Trump's propaganda network. Guess it's time to recast the role of president.
Yeah.
Oh.
Damn.
Okay. I like that idea. Okay, and one more thing about membership. We restarted TYT Classics because so many members asked for it, so it's back. Last night, JR and I shot the first one of the new rendition, or edition, not rendition, we didn't bring back TYT Classics and waterboard it. Anyway, and it was super fun. It was about one of the Golden Girls dying. Okay, but it was fun. Watch it, you'll see if you remember. It drops today for your members out there. They hear the cool kids say drops. Anyway, tyt.com/join to become a member. Okay, what's next then?
Melania Trump has been speaking to the press. Now, she's been trying to remain out of the public spotlight for the majority of Trump's term, but recently she spoke to ABC News about a number of different issues, including some of the allegations regarding her husband cheating on her. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to share a video of Melania Trump talking about why she decided to champion the Be Best campaign.
What did you see personally that you thought you wanted to tackle this issue?
I could say I'm the most bullied person on the world.
You think you're the most bullied person in the world?
One of them. If you really see what people are saying about me. That's why my Be Best initiative is focusing on social media.
Okay, so, look, I'm sure people say negative things about her, and I have a policy, like, don't go after her. She didn't run for president. She's not the president. And I hate seeing people say really hideous things about her. Now, she's been criticized for her choice of clothing, and I think some of that criticism is warranted, especially given the context in which she's decided to wear some of those articles of clothing, like her I don't care, do you jacket, which I gave her a pass for, but then she wore like this weird safari outfit while she was visiting Africa, or African countries, I should say. Anyway, whatever. Look, you're not the most bullied person in the world. You're just not. You're just not. In fact, I want to provide evidence for why you're not the most bullied person or the most targeted person in the world, okay? So, as a result of your husband's zero tolerance policy, here are some of the people who were bullied by our federal government.
No olvido ese día, fue un martes que me sacaron, me sentía angustiado, preocupado, como que yo estaba dejando una parte de mí ahí. Me dolió tanto porque era lo único que tenía, estaba completamente solo. No se quiere despegar de mí porque piensa él que nos van a volver a separar. Yo le digo que no, que ya todo está bien. Él empezó a tener pesadillas, se despertaba a medianoche. Estaba más pegado a ella. Todavía duermo con ella, o sea, se me hace difícil. Todavía yo creo a veces que yo estoy ahí, a veces me siento en un lugar y comienzo a visualizar todo lo que viví.
That is a mother and son from Guatemala who came to the United States seeking asylum. They were separated for 2 months straight as part of the zero tolerance policy. And why did they implement that policy? Simply as a deterrent, to discourage other people from trying to come to the United States to seek asylum. So it's just, please spare me your tears about how you're the most bullied person in the world. It's pathetic.
Didn't she wear the I don't care jacket when she was going to visit the kids who were being detained? I mean, that was so brazen. It's not about, hey, I didn't like the fit of your jacket, who cares, right? No, she literally had a message on the back saying, I don't care, as she was going to pretend to care.
There is a little bit of an Imelda Marcos, unfortunately. Like, that cluelessness is offensive to us. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't wear a colonizer's helmet, or there's an insensitivity that I think we're justified in critiquing her on. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying she's bad. I do have sympathy for that woman, I do. But I also am like, my mind is blown sometimes by the lack of decency, sort of, or just cluing into humanity.
Exactly.
Ability.
And just to, juxtapose the way that she's been treated to the way that Michelle Obama was treated, there was a teacher in Louisiana who got in trouble because she shared an image of, it was a side-by-side image of that gorilla Harambe and Michelle Obama, and the caption said, they shot the wrong gorilla. Okay?
So did the newscaster in Spanish for ABC. I really wish you guys would have put the subtitles on Melania because I couldn't understand her. You really should learn English if you are the First Lady of America. You shouldn't be speaking with such a heavy accent. This is America. And that's what her followers are going around, their followers going around saying to people and insulting them and pulling them aside. I don't support the bullying of Melania. I don't like the cut of her jacket in addition to the messaging behind it. I thought that she could do better. But you know what? The thing that really, you sleep, or maybe don't sleep, next to the biggest bully on the internet. And you said he didn't want you to take that campaign because people accuse him of being a bully, which is a guilty mind means no accusing. So I just think it's so interesting that she wants to play victim, and she said that sometimes she tells Donald to put the phone down. Did you see that? When she was like, I tell him to put the phone down. You need to take that phone and throw it in the trash with the McDonald's and all the other stuff.
No, let him keep eating the McDonald's.
Why do you want? Oh.
I don't want. No, I'm just saying I don't want to get into his personal life about what he likes to eat. Eat all the McDonald's you like.
Well, I think she should turn that phone, throw the phone away. And I think that well, no, I don't want to say that. I don't want to participate in that. But I just think that it's interesting that she puts the victim thing on herself, but he exercises that daily against people who can't defend themselves against him, and that's so hypocritical of her. And that I think she should be held accountable for, whether she ran for office or not. She is assuming a position of privilege, traveling the world, oblivious to the struggle that she's going to visit and leave from, and then wants to come back and say, hey, why are you guys holding me accountable for this? You guys are bullying me. No, you don't get to say that.
So, a couple more things here. To be fair to her, there is some chance that she could be right. I mean, we don't know what Donald Trump says to her. She lives with the biggest bully on the planet, so I don't know if she's referring to other critics exclusively, or she might also be referring to her husband.
Consciously supplementing what's really going on in her life.
Yeah. So that
Possibly?
it's possible,
Right?
Yeah.
That's real. That guy is a living bully, nightmare. I don't see him being kind to a lot of people.
Well,
Yeah.
Ivana Trump had written a book where she talked about some of the more violent interactions that she had with him, and so I think that it's actually a pretty good point. She probably does deal with some of Trump's bad behavior. But look, just to Matt's point, I think you're right. I think the thing that's most offensive about Melania is just how oblivious she is, right?
Because you can have a real conversation with people. Like you can go to a country, talk to a poor child and the mother, and you can go, oh my gosh, you can have a revelation. You can like take down some things. So she's not allowing herself to truly engage, or there's other things going on in her life. I had one question, which is related to the parents being separated from their children. Was that instituted by Jeff Sessions to win Trump's favor?
So, from what we know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, it was the architect of that policy was Stephen Miller, who is well known as a racist. Okay, he's had a long history of saying things against minorities and immigrants since he was a college student. And so, what Jeff Sessions did was very openly and transparently promote that policy while he was speaking at an event. I forget what the event was.
But did he want Trump to like him in that way? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, Matt, it's a good question, but I think Jeff Sessions' record has been one that supports that policy. So I think that it's a good coincidence for him, but I think he'd have done that anyway. Anyways, the two things he's most on a warpath, Sessions is independent of Trump, is war on drugs and immigration. So that's part of why the right-wing senators love Jeff Sessions. And so when Trump attacks him, they're like, no. He's one of us. He don't like those other people either, right? So it's a good coincidence for all of them. But more on Melania for a second. She now says in this interview that she gives her husband political advice. Okay, now wait a minute. That starts to make you more of a political actor, right? In fact, she seemed to be bragging about how she told him to get rid of some people that aren't there anymore. Now, if she's having, decision-making influence on who stays and who goes for policy positions in the White House, well, then that does make you more of a person in the political sphere. So we just have to be cognizant of that too. So when you're judging, hey, is she just the first lady that you shouldn't criticize because that's out of bounds? You can't be saying, hey, I got people fired at the White House, but don't criticize me politically. That you can't have it both ways. And just to all of your points, if she just had an ounce of like, look, I obviously understand that there are people who have been, bullied so much that their life is threatened and they are in physical danger, etc. So I'm not comparing myself to them, but I can at least empathize with them a little bit because of how much I've been bullied by my critics online. That's a fair comment, right? But instead she goes, no, I'm the most bullied. Oh, for Christ's sake, come on.
Right. It's just oblivious to what other people have to deal with on a regular basis. Now, one other part of the interview that I just wanted to quickly touch on is her reaction to Rudy Giuliani. So when it came to Trump's affairs, she says she doesn't really care. She doesn't pay attention to that. She knows what her priorities are. But then she was asked about how Rudy Giuliani claimed that Melania Trump believes her husband when he denies having an affair with Stormy Daniels. And so she had responded to that previously, but she reiterated today, not today, but during this interview, I never talked to Mr. Giuliani. I don't know. You need to ask him. So she's, again, clarifying, like, no, I've never communicated with him that I trust my husband. I mean, and here's the thing, if you really trust your husband, I feel like you would just say, yeah, I trust my husband. But anyway, she doubled down.
She said, I have much more important things to think about than Donald Trump's affairs in response to one of those questions. It's not a concern or focus of mine. Come on. There's nobody who's cheated on who thinks it's not a concern. It's a minor issue. I mean, I had to take out the garbage. I had a big to-do list. And I don't care if you're first lady or anything else. Of course you care that your husband cheated on you.
No, I mean, it depends on your relationship. So, like, I would care, and I sure as hell would make a big scene about it. But I love my husband, and I would be extremely hurt if that happened. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't care, though, if I was in some loveless marriage, and I'm just like, yeah, please expend all your energy doing that because I don't want you to do this. You know what I'm saying? So that could be it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like she cares.
Yeah, and granted, she's in a tough spot. I mean, what's she going to say on national TV? Like, he still claims that he didn't have sex with Stormy Daniels. He says, yeah, I paid her $130,000. Otherwise, it would be illegal, so he has to admit that, right? And I paid her hush money, but for not sleeping with her. Oh, come on, right? So she can't, I guess Melania can't come out and say, yeah, I know, of course he's lying and he's a scumbag. He cheated on me. And a lot of times that he cheated in a lot of these instances, he had just had a baby with Donald Trump. And he's like, oh, well, you're out busy having a baby. I can't be bothered by that. I'm going to go hook up with a Playboy model, right? And he's such a bad guy. And so that's why you see from time to time her swatting his hand away as he's trying to hold her hand in public appearances. But overall, though, I do like, and I will give her credit at the end here for calling out Giuliani. Giuliani's like, yeah. She knows it's not true that he's been having affairs. She's like, I never said that.
Wear a Super Mario's jacket, Melania. Wear a Super Mario's jacket.
All right, break time?
Yeah, break, and then when we come back, my favorite story ever.
Wow.
Hyperbole, right? But no, not really.
All right.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited right now.
Did anybody call for it? Editor.
Need this in an hour? Sure, editor too.
Watching all of this very carefully is Simon Wiesenthal.
Nazi hunter, Simon Wiesenthal.
Nazi hunter. Simon Wiesenthal, leading Nazi hunters known worldwide as the conscience of the Holocaust.
Criminel de guerre, famous and successful Nazi hunter.
He is a self-appointed instrument of Roman justice, but he refuses to let his former tormentors live in peace.
The organization has tracked down some 1,100. Yes, it does.
Do you think it's still really worthwhile pursuing these men who must by now be deadly old?
Any lasting good is going to come out of tracking down these people relentlessly.
To people who say, Mr. Wiesenthal, it is time to forget. Stop hunting these former Nazis. Stop torturing yourself and the world and forget.
Enough already. Enough time has gone by. Enough heartache has gone by. There must be a statute of limitations. Sure. No. You must understand. I office of the last office in the law. And because this is the last office, you cannot close the office. I cannot stop.
Hey, Dave. As you can probably see, Skype froze. Frozen crash.
You know, I'm watching a documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts. And it didn't crash. And it was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
This is the wildest, craziest race I've ever seen. We have 16 Republican candidates. What are we going to do? Not make brackets? Let us whisper the dream. Wait a minute! Good night, good luck, everybody. These are the two most unpopular candidates we have ever had in our nation's history. Jesus Christ, there is significant moves every time Hillary Clinton stands this mission.
Everyone I know is voting for her out of fear.
Looking at Donald Trump's hair like it was cotton candy.
It's political game. They don't care about lies.
Bow your head. This is what we mean by the establishment press. Do you trust the establishment media?
Yeah, no.
Have a good time on this show. What else are you going to watch?
People still don't know what the word feminist actually means.
gradations, there are different ways. The people who are against gender equality love to use like militant feminists as the representatives of all feminists. It's untrue.
I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were an incredibly weak man. If you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry? All right, back on the Young Turks. A bunch of things, real quick, 2 comments. Random Kumquat writes in on Twitter using hashtag #TOTLive. I have zero respect or empathy for Melania. She chose to marry that POS. She knew who he was all along. She chose money over dignity. Her woe is me crying straight up BS. Okay, so that's that. And then Schultz Fat 4, who is a member, writes in, "Where's the Ida show? She's all I want and need forever."
Oh.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you asked because she's doing an hour at the Cellar Fat Black Pussycat on October 18th at 7 p.m. And then, and it's called Trauma Porn with Ida Rodriguez. And you can check it out at funnyida.com to see if you can get tickets, etc. But you better hurry, okay? So that's one thing. And then I wanted to, in Matt's incredibly long bio, one of the coolest things that I forgot to mention is he's one of the founding members of Upright Citizens Brigade.
What?
Which is super badass.
That is badass.
Yes. And you've got a UCB series, Curbside Legends, coming out.
We do, we shoot interesting pieces of discarded furniture in Los Angeles, like a comforter, or not a comforter, but like a futon, yes, or a dresser that's almost good enough for like a weird mirrored piece and a footstool all together, or just a simple, but anyways, we film them and try to make them artful looking, and then we write a story about them, like how they ended up on the street, like so-and-so broke up with so-and-so.
You
We embody them with a life, if you will, and it's like a minute long. It's an Instagram and it's fun.
You've captivated me.
Yeah, it's
because
good.
I love street treats.
Yes.
I like to refurbish street
Yes,
treats.
exactly.
Yeah.
Curbside Legends, we call it.
Fun.
But street treats is good.
Yeah, we got some collabo.
Yes.
I love white people.
Is that so white to make an Instagram account about a piece of discarded furniture?
Yes. Yes. I needed that furniture when I was growing up.
Garbage pick? I loved it. I loved getting somebody's old thing.
Yeah.
I want to watch the whole, I want to read all of them.
Well, my theory on New York, and then we'll go back to real stuff, if you can get it to New York, you can sell it. That's the best about New York. If you can get a dumb chair, you can sell that chair.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right, Casper, what's next?
All right. Rich people are afraid of ridiculous things. Case in point, and I give you Exhibit A, Kelly Paul, Rand Paul's wife. She is very much concerned about angry liberals coming after her, and she's so worried about it that she sleeps with a loaded gun. Yeah. So here's an exact quote. She says, "We've updated all of our security systems at home. I sleep with a loaded gun by my bed. I'm home alone a lot, obviously, when Rand is in Washington. So I've got deadbolts all around my house so that if someone's in my house when I go to bed, I'm deadbolted in 3 different levels." Okay. She also says the following, "It's bizarre. I've never been like this in my whole life. We used to never even lock our doors, and now that has all changed. Even going out to dinner in D.C. last night, you worry. You hope that people aren't going to come up and just start screaming at you." So she's referencing the protesters who have approached either lawmakers or members of Trump's administration while they're eating at restaurants. And like, it's just funny how we do live in alternate universes, right? Because in her world, it's very threatening, it's dangerous, it's violent for someone to approach you and voice their opposition to policies that have negatively impacted their lives, right? In the real world, people are worried about, I don't know, getting raped and then people not believing that they were raped when they go report it. Like, that's kind of a concern people have. People are worried about real violence in their countries, which is why they come here seeking asylum, and then they get separated from their family members as they reach the border. I mean, like, it's just interesting to hear this, and Rand Paul specifically said something about how he's worried about this political climate leading to the death of an innocent person. except that already happened. Her name was Heather Heyer, and I guess we've all forgotten about her at this point, but she was a victim of political violence.
No, he means someone important.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in that case, look, there are real concerns, okay? There was already a congressperson shot in the head. That was Gabby Giffords. She was a Democrat. And so, now that was not political. That person was just, mentally unbalanced. But then, they say the guy who shot at the softball field and shot Steve's police was a Republican. They think that it is political, but he's also, obviously, to some degree, mentally unbalanced. I don't think he's unbalanced as the guy that shot Gabby Giffords. But, so, look, he says, Rand Paul talks about be careful with your words, because, have you ever talked to your fellow Republican colleagues about being careful with their words? I mean, you remember the Tea Party when they did the racial slurs, the spitting on the congressman, etc., let alone the alt-right and the alt-light and the marches and all the different things, and let alone your president who goes on rallies and says, punch them in the face, take him out in the stretcher, I'll pay your legal bills. Be careful with your words. Yes, I wish Donald Trump and the Republicans would be very careful with their words, and I would apply that to both sets of people. But one more thing about the pause. Look, in some ways, I get it for all the reasons I just stated, and Rand Paul was at that softball game, and so I understand that. But the big thing that happened with Pauls, and that's why they're jittery, is not because somebody yelled at him in a restaurant. It's because Rand Paul was badly assaulted, and he got his ribs broken, and I was wondering why the Republicans aren't making a bigger deal about it, because that's a pretty serious assault, right? Turns out, no, it was an argument over bushes.
I mean,
not the George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush, like actual bushes, like shrubbery, bushes. It was his neighbor, and they got in a fight, and I think the neighbor should have gotten a bigger jail sentence. He only got 30 days. I said that yesterday, right? But it wasn't at all political. So now all of a sudden, them pretending like, oh my God, I've deadbolted it because of the liberals. No, you deadbolted it because of your crazy neighbor who, I don't know who started the fight, but it was over shrubbery.
It was literally over shrubbery. It's ridiculous.
I'd love to hear. Wow. I'd love to hear these people talk about what they're afraid of in violence, coming from the perspective of a person of color. But we have PTSD since 1492 when the most violent immigrants got here. So when I hear these people talk about this tone-deaf white lady with her yoga arms talking about how she's scared and she's deadbolted in her house, imagine having to send your children out into the street every day worrying if they're going to come home because of the stuff that's happening out there to young people of color. Those babies that have been in cages who not only been separated from their families, but that have been sexually assaulted that we don't want to talk about. The women who have just been murdered. You want to talk about violence? There's a history of violence in this country that we continue to ignore, and those of us who have been the recipients of that violence, in addition to the economic violence with people who look like you and talk like you and act like you, it is so disrespectful to those of us who live in the neighborhoods who don't have the privilege and the honor of living a peaceful life where we don't have to worry that the biggest fight that we have in our lives is with a neighbor over some damn bushes. I don't want to hear anybody talk about this. If you sleep with a gun, it's because something's wrong with you, because you're not worried about anything. I'm sure you're pretty safe and secure in the neighborhood that you live in, and the one thing you got to worry about is the guy who lives next door to you who looks just like you.
Okay, so you're right, she does have very nice arms, but I agree with you. I also agree with you on the main point. Look, I get it, this political climate is scary, but with that said, there are people who do not have the same resources you do to protect themselves. They don't have the same security, they don't live in the same kinds of, nice neighborhoods, and so, again, this does seem tone deaf. But if you thought that was bad, we're just getting started. Now, this is my favorite story.
Okay, can I just say, though, compared to them, it might not be that great a neighborhood, because his neighbor kicked his ass. Apparently, it's a pretty violent neighborhood. Okay, sorry. Go.
I know, this white-on-white violence, we really need to address it.
Yeah, well, look,
Let's stop killing each other, white people.
That's right. It's a
Stop
cultural
killing each
thing.
other, yeah.
Where are the dads?
Okay. No.
Rand Paul's dad when he needed him.
If we run out of time, I will lose my mind, because I've been wanting to talk about this for a couple of days now.
Right.
Now, people living in the Hamptons are spending up to $200,000 to build panic rooms and, put panic buttons throughout their properties because they're concerned about MS-13. That's it. That's the story. Like
In the Hamptons?
in the Hamptons.
They're concerned.
They're not kidding.
No,
They're not
no,
kidding.
but it's the most insane story. Okay, so let me give you more. Worried about the notorious MS-13 gang posing a threat to the wealthy vacation enclave of the Hamptons, some homeowners are sparing no expense on safe rooms. So Hamptons homeowners are worried that gang members could get jobs on landscaping crews or for companies that do other work on their homes. Okay, so let's stop right there. If they're part of MS-13, like, that's their job. Like, that's what they do, right? Like, there's all sorts of illicit activities that go, like, they're not looking for landscaping jobs. They're not looking to mow your lawn, okay?
They're MS-13. They're not going to mow your lawn.
There's been no evidence of MS-13 infiltrating the Hamptons. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's go to graphic 44. One person says, a gentleman by the name of John, I sleep with a gun underneath my pillow, the same one James Bond carried. This is a real person.
He ran for mayor of New York, by the way, and he's a billionaire.
My wife, Margot, prefers the shotgun, although once she thought she heard something, got the shotgun out, and shot through the door. Well,
No, they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Look, I actually feel bad for them. I'm not kidding. You sleep with a pillow, with a gun under your pillow, you're going to shoot yourself in the head. I mean, that likelihood is so much greater than, like, meanwhile, they're looking at the help the whole time. Like, that guy mowing the lawn is at MS-13. No, the gun underneath your pillow is the one that's going to do you the damage. And meanwhile, the wife's like, locked and loaded all night, shooting through random doors. Right?
That's the real threat.
I mean, God help you if you get a cup of water in the middle of the night. And your jittery-ass wife comes out and she's like, okay, I see you, Juan. No! Right?
Yeah.
They're pushing fear. They keep moving.
I want to
people
start
by
a
fear.
panic room company and buy ad space on Fox News.
Oh, totally.
Great
So
money.
much money.
Because they're preaching. It's all like panic room is so crazy town.
In fact, you're absolutely right. The panic rooms, the average ones go from $60,000 to $200,000.
Let's start that business and buy ads on Fox. We can be millionaires.
Yeah. The fancy, those are not the fancy.
So 60 to 200 is like entry-level panic room.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Tom Yapping, president of Gafco Ballistics, charges $150,000 to $700,000 for safe rooms. Look, is there MS-13 in Long Island? Yes. Are they in the Hamptons? No. There's no evidence of them going to the Hamptons at all.
Okay, can I jump in? Because I was so curious about where this fear came from, right? And so they are in Long Island, okay? They are active in Long Island, but they are, the closest example is literally an hour and 15 minutes away from the Hamptons. So they're freaking out because they're like, it's only an hour and 15 minutes away. Except, that's true of any community, any wealthy community, right? So in Beverly Hills, California, I don't know, what's the dangerous part of Los Angeles right now?
I mean,
But
like, is there some MS-13 in East LA?
Yeah.
Of course there is. So yeah, that's 30 minutes from Beverly Hills. Right now, panic in Beverly Hills.
They make the MS-13 sound like raccoons, though. They're like, they're an hour away.
So, I mean, look, MS-13 is super serious, but they found a way to make it ridiculous. And the guy with the safe room business, he's like, look, these are, for a lot of folks, these houses are worth tens of millions of dollars, and it's their vacation home. So $700,000 isn't real money to them. So what difference does it make?
I know, but look, I don't know if this is true of all people who vacation in the Hamptons, but when it comes to the wealthy in America, they don't want to pay their taxes, or at least their fair share of taxes, but they are willing to spend $200,000 to protect themselves from a knock threat. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, and everybody's in a panic. The sheriff is now having people show up, cops show up with automatic weapons at charity events.
Yes.
But look, if MS-13 had done like one or two crimes in the Hamptons, okay, then you say, all right, look, it's overkill, but I get it, right? There's none of it, no crime in the Hamptons regarding the MS-13. They just, but maybe, Anna, they're taking that money they're not paying in taxes and putting it in the safe rooms.
Maybe.
Maybe then it'll be worth it. All right, we gotta go. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ida.
Thank you.
Bye.